Hello everyone. So today I'm going to be discussing all of the products that I have been interested in that have been released over the past 4 months. So the last time I did a video like this was in the beginning of March 2023. So this video will cover all of the spring and early summer releases that have interested me and that have seemed like they might be appropriate for my own mature and sensitive skin. There have been quite a lot of products that have been released, and so I'm going to split them into 2 videos. This one will include base products and cheek products, and then the second part will include lip products and eye products and skincare products. So first, a little bit of information about me. I'm 58 years old and I have dry and sensitive skin. And I have tried out about more than 1,000 makeup products over the past 2 years, and I'm looking for products that are not irritating to my skin and that perform well for me without my having to worry or go to a lot of fuss about it. So I like to spend only 5 or 10 minutes a day on my makeup, so I'm really looking for things that perform particularly well. And I also have found that there are certain ingredients that always irritate my skin, and so therefore I've stopped buying any products with those in them. So let's talk first about base products, and the one base product that was released over the past couple months that I have really liked is from one of my favorite makeup companies, which is called Mob Beauty. So their new product is a pan foundation that's a cream, and it is available in a variety of shades, some that are labeled gold, some that are labeled neutral, and some that are labeled pink. I have been using 2 different shades. This one is the pink 30 shade, and I use this under my eyes as kind of a color corrector. And then I also have been using this one, which is the neutral 20, and I've been using this for the rest of my face. And I've been really happy with the performance for these. They haven't been irritating for me at all. I feel like that they've done a very nice job covering up any kind of issues that I have on my face without drawing attention to my wrinkles or without looking like it's obvious that I'm wearing foundation. So in general, I've been always very happy with all the Mob products. I like also the fact that you can mix and match them, and you can add them to a palette as I did here, or you can have it on its own as I did with this little palette. And these are all refillable, of course. So I discussed this foundation pretty thoroughly in my video on Mob Beauty, so if you're interested in this product, then you might want to take a look at that. Now the next cream foundation that I have is from Tarte, and Tarte used to have a foundation stick that they discontinued about a year or so ago, and then they just brought out this new one. This is called the Skin Treat Poreless Foundation, and it comes in 10 shades. I have the shade Light, and it claims that it blurs fine lines, wrinkles, and pores. I have found for this one that it is kind of powdery looking when I put it on my skin, and that it, rather than blurring my wrinkles, it actually does make them look considerably worse. So I don't feel like it looks that bad on my hand, because my hand doesn't have the sorts of wrinkles that I do on my face. But when I use it on my face, I feel like it really has not performed very well for me at all. On the good side, it does seem to have not irritated my skin, so it's been okay in terms of that. But I don't see this as being something that I will use. There's quite a few other cream foundations in addition to the Mob Beauty one that I have found to be much better. So if you're interested in looking for a cream foundation or a cream concealer, then I have a whole video on that. So I will link that, and you can take a look at that if you're interested. And then the next product that I have here is from a company called Basma, which is, this is the only product, at least it's sold on Sephora, that this company makes. It's called Basma, the foundation stick, and it's $40. And there are 40 shades. I found for this product that it seemed to perform fine on my face. I think it's very comparable to a number of the other concealers or foundation sticks that I have purchased. It's about in the same price range. The issue with this product is that it caused some irritation to my face. So I don't think it was terrible, but it was definitely noticeable. So I won't be using it for that reason, because I don't ever use any products that irritate my face at all, because that's a slippery slope and my face turns into a pretty big mess as soon as I start doing that. I am a little suspicious that the reason for that would be because a retinol palmitate is listed in the ingredient list, and that is a form of retinol that may or may not be less irritating to the average skin compared to regular retinol, but in any case is rated by EWG, I think is a 9, so they are not very enthusiastic about that ingredient, and I am not really interested in using something that's going to irritate my face. So that's too bad, because otherwise I think that this will perform perfectly fine. And for people that are not as sensitive as I am, or who are already using retinol, maybe this would be a perfectly fine one, but I'm not going to be continuing with it. So last year I tried a product from Rituel de Fille, which was a lab sample, and that one seemed quite a bit like the Kosas tinted face oil, and that worked really, really well for me. So when they came out with this new version, which is called the Rituel de Fille 3-Drop Weightless Serum Foundation, I bought this immediately, and I had really high hopes for it, but unfortunately this irritated my skin quite a lot. So I thought it looked nice on my skin, and I did a whole video where you can take a look at what this foundation looks like on me, as well as some of the other Rituel de Fille products that are on the market. But I do feel like this is a product that was very irritating to my skin, and that the more that I used it, the more irritated my skin got. So I was very disappointed about that. I would advise you to go ahead and try it, except I had a real issue with Rituel de Fille in terms of their, one, arguing with me and suggesting that this was a perfectly safe product, and two, that they wanted me to pay not only the shipping back to the company, but they also wanted to recharge me for the shipping that they paid, the free shipping that they paid to send the product to me. And so I feel like they're not really taking responsibility for the fact that they're kind of going out on a limb and putting a little bit of weird ingredients in this stuff, and then hoping that their customers will be able to tolerate it. So the ingredient that they put in this that I think is really unusual, and that I have never seen in any other product, and that they actually told me was not something that I was going to be able to find any information about on the internet, has a small amount of some kind of mold in it. And I'm not saying that it's a toxic mold, but I am saying that there are a lot of people that are reactive to any kind of mold that's out there, and probably that's what's causing me the issues, because I didn't react poorly to most of the other ingredients when they were in that old formula, and the other stuff they put in it looks like it's stuff that I've been able to tolerate before. So that's my suspicion with that. So if you know that you have mold reactivities, this may not be the best foundation for you. And in general, I think if you buy this, unless you get it from Credo, which might be a better idea, you might you're taking a chance, and they're not really willing to pay for you to send it back to them in terms of covering all the costs if it doesn't work out. So I think that's important to know. And then the second product that I tried over the past few months that is a liquid foundation is the Saie Glowy Super Skin Hydro Bounce Serum Foundation for $40. This is one of, in terms of my own experience with it, I feel like this is one of the worst products that I have ever tried in terms of its performance on my skin. And I continue to think that probably the main reason for this is that it contains quite a bit of marshmallow root, which has a kind of a gelatinous and a sticky texture, and that the issue for this was that I felt that it made my wrinkles look much, much worse, and that I had such a hard time getting this product off my skin that it wasn't just that my wrinkles looked worse when I was wearing it, but that it looked worse for several days after I stopped experimenting with the product. So I think that that's a little bit on the weird side. Now, I won't say that this product is not good for anyone. I have seen a few people that I believe are telling the truth, that have said that this is currently their favorite foundation. And some of those people even have dry and mature skin like mine. But for me, I found that if I didn't put it on top of some kind of a moisturizer, that it created kind of that stickiness to it, where it stuck to my skin and made it worse. And if I did put it on top of some kind of a primer or moisturizer, that it stayed like it didn't set down and it stayed kind of a shiny, sticky, wet mess on the top of it, and that neither one of those was very good for me. There are some products from Saie that I do like, and this is one that I really don't like. So I would hesitate to suggest that you try this. I would suggest going to Sephora to get a sample of it, maybe, to see if you're a person that likes it before investing in this one. Now, the one other new liquid foundation that I think is really interesting is the Jane Iredale HydroPure Color Correcting Serum Foundation. So this has just been released, so I have not gotten this yet, but this is a foundation that's a color correcting foundation. It's quite green, or at least it looks like it is in the pictures, and it seems to be the same thing that I have already that I've been using as a primer. So the version that I have was released, I think, at the end of 2022, and it has very little pigment in it, but I do think that it's been very good for me in terms of serving as a good primer for my skin, and I also think that it creates a nice finish on my skin. So it doesn't give much coverage at all, but it's performed well for me in terms of making my skin look a little bit healthier or a little bit prettier, and it hasn't irritated my skin at all. So I've been really happy about that. So I would be interested in trying this product. I used to have really problematic skin in terms of redness, but now that I've been so picky about only using items on my skin that don't irritate my skin at all, I don't have a lot of problems with redness now, but I do on occasion, so I wouldn't mind having this, and I'd also like to give it a try. So you should be seeing a video on that new product pretty soon from me. So next I'll talk about bronzers, and bronzers is a category that I think has really kind of exploded over just the past year. So about a year ago, Haus Labs released a line of a whole lot of different bronzers, something like 10 or 12 of them, in different shades and different undertones, and that I think was really important because before that most companies only were offering 1 or 2 shades of bronzers, and so if you wanted a bronzer to match your undertone, it was often very difficult to do. So I really do like those Haus Labs bronzers a lot. That may be my favorite line of bronzer. But over the past few months, there have been a number of other bronzers that have been released into the marketplace also. So one new line is the Nars Laguna Talc-Free Bronzing Powder. This is $40, and then you can also get a mini size in some of the shades for, I think, less than $20. And there are 9 shades total, and I have found this to be a very nice product, and I have a couple of different shades, and both of those have worked fine for me. Nars is an interesting company because in the past they have created pretty much all products that had ingredients in it that were really problematic for me and that I wasn't able to use at all. But starting at some point in maybe early 2022, they seem to have really changed, and now, since then, all of the new product releases that they have done have been really good in terms of their ingredient lists, and none of them have been problematic for my face. And I think that they're all very good Nars quality, and I've been really happy with all of the products that I've tried. So I think that's very interesting because they're not bringing up the idea of being clean beauty or anything like that at all. They're not labeled as clean at Sephora. They don't even mention the ingredients that are in the products on their website. They don't even have ingredient lists. You have to go on the Sephora website or something to find out what these products have in them. But nonetheless, I am really impressed with the quality of these products and with how much success I have had wearing everything from Nars now, as long as it was released in 2022 or 2023. So I will be, I think, doing a Nars video at some point soon on all of these products. But in any case, I have found that these bronzers have performed really well for me, and I've been really happy with them. Now, earlier in 2023, Jones Road released a line of powder bronzers. So now Jones Road has released another product, and this is a gel bronzer, and this comes in 3 different shades, and I have 2 of them. And the idea with these gel bronzers is that Bobby Brown, who is the owner of Jones Road, said that her father has always worn bronzer all the way back to the 1970s. And she had a gel bronzer apparently for a while when she was at the Bobbi Brown company. They're not selling that anymore, but she has gone back to selling gel bronzers. And I do like these products a lot. I think that they're very sheer. They have a clear base, so when you put them on the skin, they really look very natural. And there's something that I think is particularly nice to wear when I'm only wearing cream foundation, or even when I'm not wearing any foundation at all. I think that these go on my bare skin very smoothly and prettily, and they really look like I'm not wearing anything, but they make me look just a little bit healthier. And I have two different shades, and I think both of these have worked well for me. The first one is the light shade, so this is kind of on the peachy side. And so even though I have a whole video on these bronzers, I'll swatch a little bit for you of these colors now. So these bronzers come in 3 different shades, and I actually have 2 of them. And the light one is kind of on the neutral side, and then the medium one leans decidedly much redder. So I found that I can use both of these on my face and that they look very nice as long as I don't use too much of it. I usually just use it on my cheeks or maybe a little bit on my nose, but I don't usually use it all over my entire face because especially with that reddish one, I definitely can look like I have a sunburn. But I think that these have been really good for my face. They haven't caused any irritation. There's something that I think that you could mix with foundation if you have one that's the right, especially if you get one that's close to your skin tone. I find that if I mix both of these with my foundation and that I can give myself something that looks approximately like what I would get if I had a real suntan. But in any case, I think this is a very nice product, and I've liked it a lot more than I thought that I was going to. And then another company that I have bought a lot of products from and had a lot of good experience with is the Jane Iredale company, and they have released a new matte bronzer that is called PureBronze. But unfortunately, this costs $44 for the product and then $20 for a refillable case for it. So I feel like $64 for a powder bronzer is an awfully lot of money, and something that I'm not sure that most people are going to want to buy, particularly now that Haus Labs and Nars and also Jones Road have such good bronzers that are already out. So if people are really interested in these bronzers, then maybe I could buy one and give it a try. But I think that's a little bit on the steep side, and I'm not quite sure why they think it's necessary to charge quite so much money. That's an awfully lot. And then for a while they've been offering highlighting bronzers, and they have a couple of new shades in that too. So if you're interested in their highlighting bronzers, you could take a look at those new shades. Now, another company that has offered a new line of quite a few bronzers is Pat McGrath. So this is called the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish Divine Bronzer for $39. They're offering 8 shades of those. I think a lot of people have been reviewing those, and they do seem to be getting a lot of good reviews. The issue with these is that they do contain talc, and talc is something that I am not as concerned about as some people, but I do think that there's a chance that there might be asbestos contamination in them. Some of the studies that have been done suggest that a high percentage of products that are sold by the cosmetic industry do contain asbestos. Other studies have suggested that this is much more rare, but in any case, I am a little concerned about the asbestos because, especially with the bronzer, because it's something I kind of use liberally on my face, and so therefore conceivably it could be something that I could breathe in, and the asbestos could be irritating to skin, or some people are just irritated by talc. So in terms of the priority of products that I'm going to be reviewing, I feel like products that contain talc, and particularly bronzers that contain talc, are further down on the list. But I have heard good things about these Pat McGrath bronzers. I still think that with the Nars bronzers and the Haus Labs bronzers that there's already some good choices out there that don't have talc in them, and that it's probably not necessary to buy one from Pat McGrath. So another brand that I really keep an eye on and that I have tried almost everything that they offer is the Victoria Beckham line. And Victoria Beckham has introduced a new product which is called the Contour Stylus for $38. It's like a little pencil that you use to shape your face. There are 4 shades. And it seems to be a product that's really designed to compete with the Westman Atelier Contour a Stick, except that this one is much thinner, like a pencil, so you can do contouring that is much more specifically targeted to particular areas of the face. Now, contouring is not something that I have ever been very interested in, except that sometimes I put some darker bronzer or contour type product underneath on my neck area, just to kind of not have it look so white. But in general, I feel like, one, I've never found that contouring, even in photos and certainly in reality, I think it looks kind of on the fake side. And I also feel that as I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot less fat volume in my face, and that I'm already looking like I'm kind of on the contoured side, and I don't really need that to be more contoured personally, I don't think. But I did see an ad on YouTube with Victoria Beckham discussing this contour stick. And I've never seen Victoria Beckham advertise anything, at least as part of her makeup line. And so this apparently is a product that she has a lot of faith in if they're actually going to be doing YouTube ads for it. So I'm feeling like maybe I should give it a try anyway, and that at the very least I could use it as an eyeshadow probably. So I might pick it up. I'd be interested if you've tried that item, what you have thought of it, or in general whether contouring is something that you're interested in, because I'm not sure how many people that are interested in my channel would buy a product like that anyway. So one of my favorite new releases of the year has been the Jones Road Tinted Face Powder for $28. So this is a loose powder, and it is available in 8 different shades. Some of these are color correcting powders. So there are pink shades, 2 different pink shades actually, which are designed to give a little bit of life to the face. So if your face is looking a little bit too much on the sallow side, then the powder can make it look a little bit brighter and healthier and like you have more blood flow. On the other hand, if your face is looking a little bit too red, then you might want to try their yellow powder. So that is designed to help to cut the redness and allow those people to not need to wear quite as much foundation. And then there also are several different shades of tinted face powder that are designed to match your skin tone, and there's a translucent version. And these powders have cornstarch in them, so I think that that makes them particularly good for me during the summer months when I'm outdoors and I'm going to be sweating, so that will absorb some of that sweat. I think it also works particularly well on top of the Jones Road What the Foundation. So this has been a really problematic product for many people because it doesn't dry down very well, and so people say, well, my hair sticks to it and it feels uncomfortable and I can't put any more products like cream products on top of it. And what I found is when I've used this on top of my What the Foundation, that it provides a really lovely base that is particularly appropriate whether I'm using Miracle Balm or cream blush or any other kind of cream product. So I've been really happy about that, and I think it's worked much better than other powders that I've tried on top of What the Foundation. Now I do feel like as a general purpose powder for the non-summer months that probably this one might not be as appropriate because it does have that cornstarch in it, so it tends to sop up all the oil on my face and make my skin drier. So I think I will continue to use probably the Kosas powder or maybe a few of the other powders that I have as a general use setting powder most of the time. But for specific uses, which is summer use and for use over What the Foundation, I think this has been terrific. And I also really like the color correcting aspects of it. Another new powder this year is the Laura Mercier Ultra Pure Talc-Free Translucent Loose Setting Powder, which is available for $48, and then this little container of it is $26. The Laura Mercier loose powder has obviously been very, very popular for a long time, and a lot of people really love that powder. However, it does contain a number of problematic ingredients, so it's a talc-based loose powder, and that's what a loose powder is what people are really concerned about in terms of the asbestos issue, that if it were contaminated with asbestos, then you would be breathing quite a bit of it in when you used it. In addition, that particular powder contained parabens, and the kinds of parabens that are of more concern to people. So I think it's good that Laura Mercier is offering an option in terms of loose powder. I tried this one a few times. I feel like it's certainly been much better than the loose powder, the regular loose powder from them, which I've tried that one a few times, and I was just kind of amazed at how irritating it was to my skin before I realized how many problematic ingredients it had in it. So I don't think that this product has been anywhere near as irritating as the regular Laura Mercier powder, but I do think it's been very slightly irritating for my skin to the point that I'm not going to be using it except to test it or compare it on camera. Maybe later on in the future. But if you like the Laura Mercier loose powder, then this could be something to try. And I think for their average consumers, maybe they're trying to, that don't have sensitive skin, maybe they're nonetheless trying to get those people to migrate over to something that's a little bit better in terms of the ingredient list. Now, Laura Mercier has also released a second powder, and this is a pressed powder, and it is called Laura Mercier Real Flawless Luminous Perfecting Talc-Free Pressed Powder for $48. And so I think that this is designed to accompany their new foundation, which is also called something like Real Flawless Perfecting Skin Tint or something. And this is a powder that's available in 4 shades. So I have the shade Honey here. And it's quite expensive, I think. $48 is kind of a lot for a powder. And the second ingredient is cornstarch. I have found that this product is somewhat less irritating for me than the new loose powder from Laura Mercier, and certainly much, much less irritating than their traditional loose powder. I think it's been slightly irritating or maybe just drying for my skin when I have tried it. I also found their foundation to be slightly irritating or maybe just drying. So that is not a product that I've been using, and I kind of doubt that I'm going to be using this one either. I will say that it has a very, very fine mill to it, and it does look really pretty when I put it on my skin. But I think that it reminds me quite a bit of the Kosas powder, which is also finely milled and which seems to perform particularly well regardless of what I put it on top of. I'm not sure if this performs as well as the Kosas on a variety of different foundations or different surfaces. I haven't tried it on every foundation that I own, and I am pretty sure that it doesn't work better than the Kosas powder. So I don't know that I'm going to be using it too much, and I think that that's really expensive for a pressed powder. So I'm not sure that that's something that I would suggest that the benefits make it worth it as far as I can see. Now, Lawless is a kind of a clean beauty company, supposedly, and they have a new pressed powder line that they came out with this year. So this is called the Lawless Skin Smoothing Talc-Free Perfecting Powder. $39, 7 shades. This one has, they say, mica, squalene, sunflower seed oil, so it's supposed to be nourishing for the skin, and I have seen a whole lot of people, various people, including people that are really not that interested in clean beauty, say that this is a very nice powder. So I did give this a try, which I bought during the Sephora sale. It arrived and it was all crushed. You can only get this, I think, online. I have not seen it as being available in any stores. So I did try it out a few times, and I think that I think it's kind of nice. It had kind of a velvety texture as far as I could tell on my skin. I think it looked really pretty. I don't think it irritated my skin at all, so I was really happy about that. I did take that back to the store, and I am going to have to order another one from either Sephora or from Lawless via mail order. So I probably will do that because I think I can get enough use out of this product that it's worth experimenting with some more. So I think of the powder releases that have come out, I would vote for the Jones Road in terms of loose powder, and for the pressed powder, I think I'd go with this Lawless one. Now, this has been the year of the blush. There have been many, many blush products that have been released just over the past couple months, and most of them have been ones that I would be willing to try, that have been that have ingredient lists that look like they're probably going to be okay for me. So let's just dive in and talk about all the blush that I have been trying out or considering. The first one that I have here is from Pat McGrath. So this is the Pat McGrath Divine Blush Legendary Glow Color Balm. And there are 4 shades that are listed on Sephora, and there are 6 shades that are listed on the Pat McGrath website. So the shade that I have is Pink Peony, and this is available only on that Pat McGrath website. So I put on some before, but it really, even before I put the powder on, it looked like I wasn't really wearing blush at all, so I put a little bit more on. And this brush that I have used before, this is from Sonia G, and it's kind of a stippling brush. It's a new brush. I'll put the name of it on the screen. But this is a brush that has brush hairs that are different lengths, so that it's supposed to be good for kind of blending things into the skin. I think it does that, and I think Sonia G makes good brushes, and so I will use that right now for this. I think it is the case for this particular blush that it goes on fairly sheer. I could put a lot of it on, but it sinks into my skin very, very fast, even more so, I think, than the Westman Atelier product. And so it's hard to get to the point where this is really creating a lot of color on my skin. But I do think it's a pretty blush, and so I kind of enjoy just putting it on, but I kind of don't feel like, in terms of staying power, that some people are going to be really happy with that. I think that the main thing that people complain about, though, with this blush is that it's in this plastic packaging that people find to be on the cheap side. And so their view is that Pat McGrath is supposed to be an expensive brand of makeup, and they're thinking about those $128 eyeshadow palettes. And so when they buy something from Pat McGrath, regardless of how expensive it is, they expect it to give them a luxury type experience. And this is giving sort of more of an ordinary type of experience that I would expect from a company like Jones Road, for instance, where packaging is, where it's not supposed to be luxury and it's supposed to be a quality product. I think it's a quality product in terms of the ingredient list being good. It looks nice on my skin. I just don't think that the lasting power is going to make everyone particularly happy, but I'm going to get some more use out of it. I kind of like this color. So the next product that I have here is from Nars, and these are the Nars Afterglow Blush. And these are available in 6 different shades. So this is another product that from Nars that would perfectly well qualify as being clean beauty by pretty much anybody's standards, but that they're not talking about ingredients or saying anything about clean beauty, and that they're really going very, very quiet in terms of letting people know that these are blushes that are not going to be a problem really for most people, and and certainly they haven't been a problem for me. So I have the shade Orgasm in this, and I will put a little bit of this on. I think that this is a pretty product on me, and that I don't mind wearing it, but I don't think that these are particularly long-lasting either. One of them is a lilac shade, so if you're interested in that, then you might want to take a look at my video on lilac or purple blush. I tried all 6 of these shades on in the Sephora store. I thought that they were all kind of nice. I thought that the purple one was maybe not as easy for me to wear. The shade that I thought looked the best on me personally was the Dolce Vita shade, so I might try buying that at some point in the future. One thing to know about these blushes is that the expiration date is only 6 months after you open it, so that's a very short period of time. So these are kind of like a little splurge that you're not going to be using for very long if you're concerned about them growing mold or whatever might happen to them after 6 months. So I'm not real eager to go and buy a whole bunch of these blushes all at once, but at some point in the future I might buy that Dolce Vita one. Now another super subtle, quiet type product is the Makeup by Mario Soft Veil Blush for $30. So this is an offshoot of the popular Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. It seems to be basically the same formula as that. So that's a bronzer type of a product that has just a very, very tiny amount of shimmer, if any, that you use just to kind of sculpt your face a little bit and to add a little bit more of a sort of a bronzy type feeling. And this is sort of a colored version of this. I have the lightest version of this blush, which is called Barely Blushing. That might have been a mistake. That's so light that I really can barely see it even on my light skin. And there's some other pretty colors that I tried on in the Sephora store that I thought might work a little bit better for me. So I might try those at some point. There are 6 shades altogether. So I guess what I would say is that this kind of reminds me of the Glossier Cloud Paints. Of course, they're in a compact, so that makes it different. But in terms of how subtle they are, I feel like this is something that I can put on my face and that it's a fairly clear base, and that regardless of how much I put on, that it's going to be something that's not going to look real dark. And I do think I would have been a lot, you can't even really see that on my hand. I think that if I had chosen one of the other colors that's a little bit brighter, that it might be something that I might be really enjoying. So I'll look at this product again, but it's interesting how many of these blushes are kind of on the subtle side. And then one more product that's on the very, very subtle side is the Dior Rosy Glow Blush for $40. Now, the Dior Rosy Glow Blush, this has been fairly popular for a couple of years now, and it came out in 2 shades to begin with. It came out in kind of a very bright, cool pink, and it also came out in a peach color. So especially that bright, cool pink color was pretty popular in terms of people using it to add a subtle but noticeable pop of pink on their cheeks. So and those products had talc in them. And so now Dior has decided to become some kind of a version supposedly of clean beauty. But it's very odd because the way that the things that they're changing are not necessarily the things that really matter to me. So they're taking all the talc out of all of their products, which is requiring many of their products to be reformulated. And they may be taking out a few other ingredients, but they are nonetheless leaving in fragrance in many of their products. And they're also leaving aluminum powder in many of their products. And I think that one of the products even has black number 2 in it, which is carbon black. But in any case, I have not found that there have been a lot of products that have been re-released by Dior with the new formulas that are ones that I think would be appropriate for me in terms of my own sensitivities. So it really hasn't been that helpful to me. But in terms of the ingredient lists, I do think that these powder blushes, that those look like they're ingredient lists that I can tolerate. They don't have any fragrance in them. And in general, they seem like they would be something that would be worth trying. So I did buy one of the new ones, and this is the peach shade. So it's the original shade supposedly that they have had for quite a while, but it's in the different formula. And so now they have a total of 6 shades. So if you have interest in a different color shade, then you could take a look at that. What I have seen in terms of other YouTube videos is that it looks to me like the new version of that pink shade is much more muted than the old version in terms of how it comes across on the skin. So it's not quite as bright, and I think that that might be the case with this peach shade also, or in any case, I have found this peach shade to be very, very muted on my skin. So kind of so muted that you can't really see it very much at all. It's not so muted that I want to use it like all over my whole face. It's a little too orangish for that. But I do think that regardless of what brush I have used, it really doesn't give a lot of color to my skin, even if I put it on fairly heavily. So as I look in this monitor, I think it's kind of a pretty shade. I don't mind using it. I just feel that it might be better if it were a little bit more of a pop color to it, rather than being so muted. Now, in terms of things that are very bright, Saie has introduced another new product, which is called the Glow Sculpt Blush for $32. So this is supposed to be a blush that's a highlighter also, and this is available in, I think, 5 or 6 shades. And the one that I have is the peach shade, Peach Glow. And this has turned out to be almost a fluorescent pink. So I am really surprised at just how bright this is. So I'll put a little bit on my hand to start out with. So I think this is, my skin tends to be on the peach side and to be able to carry off a lot of peach colored products. But this one, even for me, seems to be quite bright. So there are some times that I might wear this for sporty type occasions or when I'm wearing certain clothes. But in general, I feel like this is on the bright side. I'll try to put this in with the stippling brush to see if I can buff it in a little bit. And I also think it's the case that, you know, even just sitting here for a few minutes, that it does kind of sink into the skin a little bit. So I don't think I will buy any more of these. Trying them at Sephora, the one that looks the most like it might be working for me in terms of being a blush and a highlighter would be the mauve one. And then they have some that are quite a bit darker that I don't think would probably work on my skin tone at all. And then there are a few more other products that I have considered trying but haven't actually tried yet. The first one is the Fitglow Multi-Use Ceramide Cream Lip Plus Cheek Palette for $48. And so there are 2 different blush palettes that they are making available, and each one of those have 4 different blush shades. I think that these are super pretty, at least in terms of the pictures. And I'm also a fan of Fitglow in terms of the quality of their product, in terms of nothing that I have purchased from them irritating my skin and everything actually being helpful to my skin. And so I'm kind of interested in those little blush palettes. They are kind of expensive, but Fitglow does have some sales from time to time, so hopefully I can pick up one of those because I think that that one might be fun. And I've never been disappointed by anything that I bought from Fitglow so far. And there also are a few new blush shades or new blush packaging. So the first one is that Westman Atelier Baby Cheeks Blush Stick. If you've always been interested in trying the Westman Atelier blush, but you have blanched at the idea of spending, I think it's $48 for it, then this piece of news is for you. At Sephora and on the Westman Atelier website, they now have a mini version of that that's available for $25. Just in the color Petal, which is a dusty rose shade, which I think is probably their most popular shade. I've tried that shade. I think it is very pretty, and I might pick up one of those blush sticks myself. That is one of the few colors of the Westman Atelier blush stick that I don't have yet. And even though that product does irritate me a little bit because it does tend to disappear on my face more than I would like, I do think that they are so pretty and so easy to use that I'm really tempted to have that one around so that I can use that color as well. Now, in terms of blush that has much more staying power, I would say that one of the products at the top of the list for me would be the Ma Beauty Cream Clay Blush. And they have just released a couple of new shades of that as part of their Spring Goth line. So these are not colors that I would consider to be goth colors at all, at least in terms of the blush, except insofar as they're just almost neutral type of colors. So one of them is kind of a peachy pink, and then the other one is sort of a pumpkin color. So I will try both of these on. I think that both of these look very nice for me. And they do last on my skin quite well. I need to kind of buff them into my skin because they are a little bit on the stiff side, especially when it's cold out. But I'll just put a little bit extra on here because they are so light. And the thing that I like about this is that even though it has a really muted look, these colors in particular, they do last on the skin. And then the blush line that I think really has more staying power on the skin than any other one are the Honest Beauty blushes. So these are not expensive at all. They're about $20 each. And there are now 3 new shades in this blush. So here are the shades. One is a lilac type color, and then there's a bright orange one and one that's kind of a bright, very cool pink color. So I've swatched all 3 of these on my hand so you can take a look at these. I talked about these in depth in my video on purple blush or lavender blush, and I swatched all 3 of these colors in that video actually. I'll put on a little bit, why don't we put on some of this orange one. That one's a very easy color for me to wear, and I think it looks very nice. And see, it goes on very bright. So I gotta be a little careful. I think I put on way too much. So I think this is really designed for people that have much darker skin than I do, and that I really should be a little bit more careful. But if I just buff it in a little bit, then I think that it starts to look fine, and then it will stay in place for quite a long period of time. So I think that's important. And from what I have seen, everyone that has tried these Honest Beauty blushes really, really likes them, but many people just underestimate them because they're part of the Honest line, so therefore they're categorized as drugstore. And I think people really don't quite understand how good these blushes are, both in terms of how they look, in terms of the colors that are offered, and certainly in terms of how they perform. Another line of blush that I really like is Glossier, and Glossier has introduced 2 new shades, and I swatched both of those shades in my purple blush video, so you can take a look at that if you want. One is a lilac color, and then the other one is a more of a bright rose color that I found to be very easy to wear. So I think it's nice. Those may just be temporary in the Glossier line, but in any case, I find it to be the case that I can wear pretty much every shade of the Glossier blush just because they blend out so nicely. And those are not products that have irritated my skin at all, so I've been very happy with that line. Now, Haus Labs makes a line of just a few blush. I think there's just 6 now. The newest one is a purple color, which is called Lavender Blonde. So this is another one of those purple type blushes that I talked about in my purple blush video. I think that all of the Haus Labs products are very, very bright. That makes it a little bit difficult for me to control and to get a nice look out of. So that makes me a little disinclined to reach for them even in the peach shade that I have, which does go really well with my skin, but that I really feel like I need to use like a fan brush in order to use it effectively. So if you have darker skin, then any of the Haus Labs products, including that purple one, might be really good for you. Otherwise, I kind of wish that they would come out with more colors of blush because the blush formula is very, very nice. Another line of blush that I have heard good things about, but that I've never actually tried, is the Lawless Make Me Blush, which is a powder blush for $29. So that is, again, a company that calls itself Clean Beauty. And I would like to try that product. I will try to order it at some point. They have a couple of new shades. One is called Daisy Pink, which is a bright, cool pink. And there's also one that's called Juicy Watermelon, which is kind of more of a pinkish, slightly peachish color. And then a couple of other products that I have tried in the past have new shades out. So Tower 28 has a line of moderately priced blush that's called Beach Please Cream Blush. And they have a new purple shade out. It looks very saturated, so I think it might be appropriate for people either who have darker skin or who have maybe like a yellowish and moderately darker skin. And then Bare Minerals has a line called Gen Nude Bronzers. And the ones that were out previously, they were all pretty much on the bright side. There was a pink one and a copper one and I think a rose one. So they're quite shiny and they're quite saturated. And there are two new colors in that too that are more neutral. So for people that like that bronzer formula, you might want to take a look at that. And those are called Kiss of Mauve and Kiss of Spice. And so now let's move on to highlighters. And the first one that I'll talk about is, again, Mob Beauty, which is a company that I really, really like. This is called the Mob Beauty Hyaluronic Highlight Balm. So again, this is a pan highlighter. It costs $28, including a single case, or you can put it in one of these multi-cases. So this is a cream highlighter that's kind of on the translucent side. So I will swatch two of these, the two shades that I have on my hand. So the ones that I have here, I have one that's kind of like a rose gold at the top, and then I have one that's kind of a champagne color. So I'll put on a little bit of this champagne color just to kind of give you a sense of the sort of look that I'm getting when I put this on my skin. So it doesn't seem like it's just adding a shine to my face. It's also adding just a little bit of like a heft. So it's kind of filling in wrinkles and just adding some kind of a blurring type of a look to it that I think is kind of on the pretty side. And of course, like everything from Mob Beauty, this feels really good on my skin. It hasn't caused any irritation at all, and I've been really happy with how it has held up, and also with the price. I think the price is quite reasonable. And I think that the price is especially reasonable when I compare this to the Beautycounter products. Now, at almost exactly the same moment that Mob Beauty came out with their highlighter balm, Beautycounter came out with something that's extremely similar, except that the Beautycounter version is much, much more expensive. So rather than being $28 including the case, they are charging $42 including the case, and the case is a little bit nice, but not really that nice. I'm not sure that it's any nicer than the Mob Beauty ones. And I have two shades in this, though. I have one that is a rose gold, which is this one, and then I have one that's a bronze color. So I swatched both of these on the back of my hand. I don't think there's all that much of a difference between these shades, and I think that both of these shades look okay on my skin. I'll put a little bit of the bronze one on, but in terms of what they look like on my skin, I don't think that there really any difference at all between this one and the Mob Beauty one. And then in terms of liquid highlighters, I picked up this one from Typology, which is a French company that sells products mostly for skincare, but there are a few makeup products as well. So I have actually these products sent to me from France, but there's a website that makes it very easy to order, and I haven't had any problems ordering from them. This is a fairly glowy highlighter, so I'll put a little bit of this on the back of my hand, and then I'll put a little bit of it on my face. I haven't had any problems at all with this irritating my face, regardless of how I have applied it. And I think that it is a not too ostentatious, kind of a muted highlighter that adds just a little bit of pretty glow to my face. I think this has been very nice, so I can see why it's so popular. And another liquid highlighter that just came out is the Super Loaded liquid product from Westman Atelier. And this comes in 3 shades, Peau de Pêche, Peau de Soleil, and Peau de Rosé. And I have just the Peau de Pêche one, so I will swatch this for you on the back of my hand. This really just came out, and I was kind of excited about it because I have all 4 of the shades of the Super Loaded tinted highlighters, which are the cream versions, and those are really my favorite makeup products of all. So I talked a little bit about that in the video that I did on Westman Atelier, and then also in the Credo video I did some more swatching of those colors. And I have gotten some really good use out of all of those. So I thought that maybe I would also get some use out of this. And I do think that this is a really pretty product. And that it's something that I would be able to use on a regular basis, maybe even. I tried mixing this with a moisturizer so that I could use it without a foundation kind of all over my skin, and I thought that that worked really, really well. And I also tried using it just on little bits of my face, which is kind of how they are showing it as well. So I kind of blotted off some of that Typology highlighter, and I'll put on a little bit of this on a spot basis. So the Peau de Pêche is supposed to be similar to many people's skin tones, and I think it's very close to my skin tone. So it's really just adding a little bit of shimmery look without being too noticeable. And then the Peau de Rosé gives you a little bit of a rosy look. And then I think that the Peau de Soleil is supposed to give you sort of more of a bronzy look. But at least in terms of the Peau de Soleil, in terms of the cream bronzer, I found it to be very, very gold. And so gold that I really was only inclined to use it on my eyes. So that's why I didn't want to buy that one to start out with. So I thought I'd start with the Peau de Pêche. And I'm glad that I only bought 1 shade in this, because as it turns out, when I use this all over my whole face mixed with moisturizer, it does tend to be a little bit irritating. And this is a surprise, because all the other Westman Atelier products that I have purchased, except for the skin activator, have been fine for my skin. But this one does include just the ingredients fragrance, and it says at another point on the Westman Atelier website that it is a natural fragrance, and then they said that it was a yuzu lemon scent. So I thought that I would give it a try. And I think that if I'm just using it on a spot basis, and especially over foundation, that it's not really irritating me. But if I'm using it all over my whole face, then it starts to, I start to feel it a little bit, and I'm afraid it's going to get worse. So the good thing about Westman Atelier is that, unlike Rituel de Fille, for instance, they do take things back fairly readily. So if that's something that becomes a concern to you, then you shouldn't have a problem getting your money back, probably either from Westman Atelier or from Credo or from Sephora. So I would think about buying from one of those retailers, because they do have pretty good return policies. So that's it for me for part 1 of this video. If you have tried any of the products that I have discussed, then please let me know what you thought of those in the comments section. In addition, if there are any products that you've tried recently that I've missed, then I'd really like to hear about those as well. Thanks very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. Coco and I love you very much. Goodbye.